Hi there, and welcome to the Neckpour. My name's Lewis, and welcome to the Whiskey Review channel where I give you my thoughts and opinions on a bottle of whiskey from the Neckpour all the way down to the dregs. You join me here for part 2 of my little Busker mini-series, as it were. I was able to pick up 3 bottles of these for £45. That's right, £15 each. One of the single grain, one of the single pot still, and one of the single malt. I've already tried the single pot still, and please click up there if you want to see my review of that one. Give you a little hint, really enjoyed it on the Neckpour. This is the single grain, and we'll finish with the single malt as it's more the home straight and what I know. But yeah, before we get into this, I would just like to say, if you enjoy the content, please hit the like button. If you've got any thoughts and opinions on this particular bottle of whiskey, anything else Irish I need to be checking out, or anything you'd like to see me review, please do leave that in the comments below. I'll certainly get back to you on it. And if you're really enjoying the content, please do hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you're informed next time I post. It really does mean a lot to me. But I would normally say, let's get this cork cracked open, but this is a twist top bottle, so it's not quite the same level of theatre, is it? Although it certainly is efficient, I can't deny that. This one is actually a slightly different bottle design than the other 2 bottles that I've got. And personally, I don't quite like it as much, actually. The other ones look more like this. I think are just a little bit more stylish. But, you know, when you're paying £15, who can really complain? We're talking 44.3%, which again, for that price point, is a really nice number. It's not 46, and as a result, given there's no information online or on the bottle, we can assume it probably is both chill filtered and coloured. Although, who knows, because there is a fair colour deviation between the 3 bottles, so maybe not, but again, if it was my distillery, I'd be shouting from the rooftops about anything good I was doing, so I'm going to have to assume no. This is, as with most Irish whiskey, triple distilled, and this one has been finished in bourbon and masala casks. And so yeah, we'll see what it's like. But firstly, let's give it a little sniff. That's really sweet on the nose. Kind of honeyed, I would say. Maybe caramel. There's an orchard fruit in there. I think it might be a pear. And again, the youthfulness and the grain of this whiskey kind of makes that pear seem almost a bit like a pear drop or a rosy apple, that kind of slightly artificial sweet. In fact, I think with the sweetness, I think the rosy apple's more on the money for this one. And there's that little hint of that kind of acetone sort of note that I often get on young grain whiskey and also on just young whiskey in general. But it's not at all offensive. There is a bit more prickle on the nose than on the single pot still. And you can smell the proof a little bit higher on this, I think, as well. It behaves quite nicely in the glass. Maybe it's not too horrendously stripped in any kind of distillation. But yeah, let's get our lips around this and see what we think. Wow, that Marsala cask is dominant. Crikey. The first note of that is like a kind of fortified wine. You get a punch of the alcohol first, and it is that raw, youthful grain. It's a real first up, then kind of leaking into a sweet, spicy, kind of thick wine on the palate. I mean, as you've seen, I've literally just opened the bottle. I've just started recording the video, so I'm not into a drinking session at this point. I imagine after maybe a dram, a bit of that punch will start to dissipate. And even there, as I went back for my third sip, there is already a difference on the palate. I'm getting less of that punch. There is still a slight tingle on the tongue with the both the proof and the kind of rawness of the alcohol. But yeah, we're getting lovely, lovely spices on there. But in a kind of very different way to sherry. These are much more kind of tempered, almost like they've been cooked, the spices, rather than a more raw spice. There's a lovely oakiness, and there's just hundreds of dark fruits to this, really ripe cherries, blackberries, black currants, things like that, but almost spoiled. They're so ripe, and it's super sweet. And then through the finish, this is a lot shorter than the single pot still, I will say, but it goes through a bit more oak. There's a fair bit of oak to this. If you'd given it to me blind, I would have guessed this was in really highly charred virgin oak casks, actually, because it's that kind of almost that oaky spice. And then there's leathers, there's caramel, there's vanilla, all those kind of more traditional bourbon things, but with this kind of super sweet fruit undertone to it. But for me, on the Neckpour, this is, again, it's a really good drinking whiskey. At £15, this is something you could take to a party, you could have when friends come around, something like that, where you're not really thinking about drinking whiskey. You're not drinking a statement dram that you're sitting there and supping for 30, 40 minutes. This is a socialising, it's a drinking, it's a talking over whiskey. Again, at this price, it's a cooking whiskey, it's a baking whiskey, it's an infusing whiskey. It's ridiculously good value at 15 quid. Because again, as with the first bottle, this beats any of your rough, bad, cheap blends into a tin hat. It beats any of your supermarket kind of own label stuff into a tin hat for me. But I would say I think the pot still is better than this. I've not drunk them side by side, and once I've got to know them all a little bit better, I will come back. I'll do a three-way bottle battle between the three of them, and I'll give you my slightly more nuanced thoughts comparing them. Again, maybe I'm remembering that one with rose-tinted glasses, or that was only a couple of weeks ago. But no, this is perfectly good, and at the price, it's actually ridiculously good. But yeah, it's perfectly adequate drinking whiskey. Again, I don't think it needs water. I do have my water here just in case, but I think it's already sort of teetering on the limits of as low percentage wise as you can still get while still getting a nice big hit of flavour. So I'm not going to add any water to it at this stage. Maybe I will in the future, who knows? And again, as with the single pot still, I think this could easily be drunk over ice. I think it could really easily be drunk over ice. And I think it might actually shine that way. But I'll do a little bit more research and I'll certainly come back to you on it. But no, I think at this point, that's a pretty good place to wrap this one up. I would just like to say thank you all so much for joining me here today. It really does mean a lot to me for how many of you guys tune in to watch. And if you've enjoyed the content, I would like to ask, please do hit the like button below. Drop me a comment if you've got any thoughts on this particular bottle. If there are any other Irish gems I need to know about, because again, I'm fairly ignorant to that world, drop them in the comments. Or if there's anything you'd like to see me review as well, again, put that down below. I'll be sure to come back to you and I'll keep my eyes peeled for it. And if you've really enjoyed everything today, please do hit the subscription button and that notification bell so you're notified next time I post it. It really does mean the world to me. But until then, I'd just like to say cheers, Salancha, and I'll see you again.